Can I be negative for a minute?
Yeah, please go ahead. You've held back for 35 minutes.
So if you want to look at a really bad example, look at England. It's, so you just referred to the Teacher Development Agency, all abolished. Any mediating structure between the teaching profession and central government has gone, other than maybe multi-academy trusts or a few residual local authorities. What between the universities involved in teacher education and gone. National Curriculum Council went ages ago. Qualifications and Curriculum Authority went 2010. General Teaching Council, Training and Development, National College for Teaching and Leadership, there's nothing, all gone. So what you have is a really powerful Department of Education in England, not Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, very different, but Department of Education in England that actually doesn't have the capacity to govern the entire system in England, but wants to. So what you have is just poorly funded, poorly thought through succession of awful ideas that are just disruptive. And of course, it's glossed then in a rhetoric, particularly under previous education secretaries like Michael Gove, of disruptive innovation. You've just got to shake people out of their established practices. And what you give them in place is just underfunded chaos. So if you want to look at, there's a huge project going on in England at the minute called the Market Review of Initial Teacher Education. And this is being led by the current Education Secretary, who's appointed an independent chair, and we have a revolving group of independent chairs, all very close to the government. One outcome of that, and this isn't an exaggeration, so you'll be able to find on the internet a talk that an academic from Sheffield Hallam University did with two guys called Stan and Frank that do a video, a vlog, and they interview Samantha Twistleton, director of the Institute for Sheffield Hallam in Northern England. And she's on the market review group. One of the outcomes of the market review may be, I think Professor Twistleton hopes it isn't, but it may be, that there are in the end a very small number of accredited providers of initial teacher education in England. 4 or 5 or 6, literally, that's it. They're given short-term contracts by the DFE, and their performance to those contracts is monitored by what are called delivery partners. And if they don't deliver right, they lose the contract when it comes up after a year or 2 years. And, the kind of content for those, you can have a look at the core content framework in England. You could have a look at the early career framework in England. The flavor of the month is a sort of 1974 version of cognitive science. It's a mid-70s version of memory, long-term, short-term working, all of that stuff.
Cognitive load.
Cognitive load. Now, cognitive load theory, I think some of that stuff is great. Some of the stuff around cognitive load theory in mathematics, particularly here in Australia, is great. The reference points they're picking up in England are 30 or 40 years old.
Yeah.
And they're going on very old-fashioned views of psychological views of memory. And this is being taught, its intention is to be taught to student teachers. So I think England, for me, to be negative, is the example not to refer to. And the reason I wanted to say that out loud is you'll find plenty of people associated with the government in England saying it's the best time ever to be a teacher in England. Oh, no, it isn't. It's a time in England where the profession has never been more tightly controlled by the state.